welcome back. We're here from the National Union Students Union again today. My name is Sanam Arora, President of the NISU here. We're here today with two very special guests. I've got with me Sonali Bose, acclaimed director from India, and Kalki Koechlin, acclaimed actress from India. I'm here today to discuss with them the movie Margarita with a Straw, which has had its premiere at the London Film Festival here, as well as look at what's gone into the film and how different and similar the experiences have been through mainstream cinema. Kalki, Sonali, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Right. First question is for you, Kalki. How did you manage to actually bring forth the aspects, both physical and mental, of cerebral palsy into your acting, into Laila's role?
The physicality was definitely very intimidating to, tackle. And I remember telling Shonali I need like a lot of time to do this, and I was very stressed that, we wouldn't have enough time, because first she wanted to shoot quite early, and then we delayed the film. So we got enough time. But the physicality, I really worked a lot with her cousin who has cerebral palsy, Kalki Koechlin, and a lot of it was observation, following her around. She really let me into her life in an amazing way. She let me go to her home. She let me go out. We went drinking together. We watched movies together. So I got to see, yes, on the one hand, the physicality, but also how people look at her, the reactions in public, and then the reactions in private. So how much more comfortable she was in a private space as opposed to a space where people don't know her. And so that's a psychological effect that also takes place. And then I met her physiotherapist and her speech therapist to try and understand how the muscles actually work, and how the breath pattern works, because you're short of breath, so you run out of breath halfway through a sentence, and then you have to take another breath, and so the speech is broken. So these are, and then the tongue, of course, is a muscle. So there's all these detailed things, like if you say the word beautiful, the tongue goes back quite a lot, and so she would say beautiful because that's easier on the tongue. You wouldn't need to put your tongue back so much. Right. So those kind of little pronunciations, and we also chose what we wanted for the film creatively, because we needed Laila to be understood by the audience. That was a lot of work.
And in terms of your experiences understanding how India deals with disabilities, could you shed a bit of light on that, both of you? Whether you find it's very unfriendly as the status quo is, or what was your experience in terms of understanding India and its stance on disabilities?
Well, just speaking from an infrastructure point of view, it's very unfriendly, because you can't go anywhere without the help of several people. You're constantly dependent on so many people, because your sidewalks are not wheelchair friendly, or most of your malls and your cinemas and public spaces are not wheelchair friendly. Your public transport isn't. So that in itself is so limiting for a person. And on top of that, of course, there's the stigmas of somebody who has a disability, that they're supposed to be kept at home. We don't see them having fun, right? Certainly not drinking or having sex, even though many people with disabilities are married and have children and have, all the things that we all have. But we don't see that side, and we definitely don't talk about that side in cinema.
Yeah. And through this film, Sonali, is there a specific message you're trying to send out, perhaps to the government, to policymakers, regarding disabilities and how India deals with them?
Not at all. Actually, the film is not dealing with disability in the way you're thinking, and therefore that question of how, whether there's prejudice or not, the film is actually not really dealing with at all as to how India versus the West deals with or looks at infrastructure or any such thing. It's really an internal journey of this person, and there's no message in that sense in the film. It's not a message film, but I think it's a journey of any teenager. It's a coming-of-age story of anybody. So I always say to people that this film is about you. When somebody asks me what's the film about, it's not about cerebral palsy. The film is about you. Do you love yourself? Do you accept yourself? Because that's a question that any and everybody faces. So it's a much more profound thing, because it's a very obvious, superficial thing if one just dealt with the issue of disability. So it's not an issue film that deals with that or the problems of that. That's inherent to the character, to the person. That's part of her journey. So anything she'll encounter, that's just part of it, but we've not put the spotlight on that. In fact, I think what's great about the film is, 5-10 minutes into it, you forget actually the person is disabled, and that's the biggest empowering thing. That maybe that's a message then, because you learn to just watch Laila and observe Laila and empathize with Laila rather than pitying her. So you really relate to her just as you would to anybody else. And then one hopes that then in real life, when you meet somebody in a wheelchair, you won't be that intimidated, which it perhaps is intimidating socially to know how would you talk to that person and how would you relate with them.
Yeah. And in terms of the actual storytelling style that you've adopted, it's very different and it's unconventional in the sense of it's not your standard mainstream storytelling style. The silence has been used in a very, very effective, very, very subtle way. You've got extreme sort of close-ups. What was the key sort of message, or what reaction were you expecting from your audience based on the storytelling style or the sort of editing style that you've adopted?
I think with all my films, I just would, what you want is that an audience can relate to your characters and take something from it, right? You just, and I just hope that, I think it's not so much necessarily how one shot it or, you know, things like that, but it's to do with how you really have drawn a person in emotionally so that they will identify with what you're dealing with. So, and I hope that that's what's happened.
Fair enough. And Kalki, yourself, the films that you choose, sort of, I'm a big fan of That Girl in Yellow Boots, and I'm a big fan of Margarita with a Straw now. So, what makes you choose a film? What clicks when you're looking at a script, or what is it that drives you to choose a particular film over another?
Well, when I read a script, I just, one is I have to read it in one go. If I read it and I stop halfway for a cup of tea, then I'm like, it means I'm bored. So for me, as soon as I get into a story and I get wrapped up in that, and I want to know what happens to those characters, that's really important. And yeah, so, and the same thing when I pick a character, you know, I have to feel like, oh, I forget for a moment that this is not a real person. You know, I forget. You become so engrossed in the story. So that's really important. And I think, and then how I choose my scripts is, you know, I personally want to progress and improve with each script, and I don't want to repeat myself. And we have a tendency to really box people and stereotype them and put them in one corner. Oh, she does this really well. So then I consciously try to not do the same thing in my next film, you know, so that, and, you know, I think it's really important for an actor to go in the directions which scares them. Definitely with Margarita, I was really scared, you know, about this film. But that is what's going to push you and, you know, make you work.
So the character of,
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think there's really, we're sitting in an extraordinary presence here of a brilliant actor, because even with the first question, and I want to just add here, you see, the thing is, it's not really about just your talent. It's about understanding, which exactly how she spoke here about wanting to grow as a person, because many actors don't bother to do that. The understanding that you as an actor want to grow with each role, but understanding that to do that you really have to work hard, and you believe that it's not just your talent, you're not just brilliant enough, that you have to put in that work. So she's outstanding in that sense in India, and I think in the world there aren't that many people who, especially who are famous, who understand that and put in months of work. So when she was speaking that she put in months, we're talking that she'd go home, or after working 8 hours, you know, this is, I'm talking pre-production and rehearsal, like not even on set. Even on set she did it. Stay in the wheelchair, do her daily activities staying in the wheelchair, so that her body will have a physical memory, a sense memory of what she has to go through. So this is enormous work that somebody's not even requiring you to do, that Kalki believes in and did, to really produce such a luminous, such an outstanding performance that it's really tragic that this girl cannot get an Oscar, because we will not be able to be an American film competing in all categories, because anybody who'll see it, even any American who's seen it in Toronto, has come out saying she needs to get an Oscar for this film. It is absolutely up there with any Oscar-worthy actor. And that is coming from her, what she says, because she wants to grow, and to grow she works. And I think that's something very important and special.
Absolutely. That's very sweet. And when you put in so much hard work, and Laila becomes a part of you, I suppose, by the end of the day. So what's that one thing that has struck you the most about Laila and that you completely resonate with? So Kalki and Laila, what's that one thing that ties them together?
Oh, wow. I guess the aspect of loving yourself I think because that is something that all of us face at every point in our life. And especially in my industry where there's so much attention on beauty and looking a certain way, I think, you kind of become extremely self-conscious with people staring at you and judging you, and especially with social media now, you get everything on social media, everybody's opinions out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to know who you are and to find out what is important to you, and that there's a long life ahead, that life isn't about just the next 4 or 5 years that are, because we tend to think so short term in our lives that we forget that we need to be beautiful when we're 65, and your breasts are sagging down to your knees. You still got to be beautiful, and what's that about? And finding out who you are from inside and being honest to yourself about that person, and that I think is the most beautiful thing in the script and in the film, is that Laila does make all the mistakes, and she does go outwardly seeking for attention and for love, but it's only when she has to really face herself and become honest with herself and stop lying to herself that she's able to deal with life.
Absolutely. And just on that note, the youth out there, I think one of the biggest things we're struggling with today, or have struggled with sort of conventionally, is you're not allowed to love yourself. You're not allowed to be yourself. You're not allowed to be disabled if you're disabled. You're not allowed to be bisexual if you're bisexual. You're not, and you have to sort of get into the gender roles. And I think those issues are very beautifully tackled in this film. So what would be the one message you would give sort of to the youth of today about about just loving themselves, and any one specific message you want to send out to them? Both of you. That's for both of you.
Well, you said it yourself. I think to be oneself is really the important thing, because I think the social pressure is so enormous, particularly on this generation of, filling some footsteps of either the previous generation or of doing this or doing that, and you're always being watched, now, whether you're famous or not. And I think it's really important to put all that aside, because one of the things the films deal with is that you think external affirmation is important, right? And that's what's not important actually as you go through life, because that doesn't see you through. So it's really about empowering yourself from within and loving yourself. And if you don't love that, you're going to actually end up, I feel, quite lost in this journey of life. So I would say to the youth that love yourself and be yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. And Kalki?
I guess for me the message is of normalcy. What is normalcy? I've realized there's no one is normal. We all, the most beautifully happy looking couple will have all their inside problems when you look at it closely. So there is no standard idea of normal, and that's what this film talks about in very strongly, that you don't need to go by society's idea of normal to live a good life and a happy life.
So be yourself, love yourself, and feel empowered is the message for today. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, both of you. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Lovely speaking with you.
Thank you so much.